We will call to order the Tuesday, March 17, the year 2026. This is our House Transportation Subcommittee. If all members could please ensure that you are logged in. We are trying to pull our screen up. There we go. Mr. Clerk, if you could open the board so members can announce their attendance. All right, if we could go ahead and, Mr. Clerk, if you could announce the attendance. We've got a couple members there that are having some device issues there, if you could recognize them as well. There's one more in. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Chair and the clerk detect a quorum. Representative Chairman, Vice Chairman Butler, did you want to be recognized, sir?
Thank you, Oh, there we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize, I've got my daughter. I recognize her in full transportation. I want to recognize her again. And we'll definitely forego the 3-minute speech that she is going to offer.
Welcome. Glad to have you here. Any other personal orders to come before the committee? Representative McAlvin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to wish the committee and every member of the audience a very happy St. Patrick's Day. Wear your green, don't get pinched.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to all. Any further personal orders? We do have a calendar before us, and we will go through in order. We will take some action or not take some action on some bills, and we'll announce those as we go through. Item number 1 on the calendar, House Bill 1643 by Leader Lamberth. The request has been to take that bill off notice. Without objection, House Bill 1643 off notice. We're now on item number 2 on our calendars, House Bill 2009 by Chairman Lafferty. Chairman Lafferty, you have your motion, you have your second. Do you have an amendment, sir? No, I see no amendments. So we are ready for your explanation. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill would authorize local legislative bodies to request that TDOT conduct a highway traffic noise study on state roadways when tree zones or tree lines have been cleared. In East Tennessee, tree clearing along the 4075 corridors has exposed nearby residences more directly to highway traffic noises that were previously buffered. This legislation doesn't guarantee an outcome or mitigation. It simply asks TDOT to recognize and evaluate potential noise concerns through an official study when requested by the local governments. Under current federal guidelines, roadway expansion projects that involve the clearing of the trees can trigger these studies. This bill clarifies that TDOT may also perform a noise study at the request of a local government when the project is routine maintenance rather than a highway expansion. And the goal is to provide permissibility for communities to raise legitimate noise concerns and have them evaluated using the data provided. So
Thank you very much for that explanation. Any questions or comments for the sponsor? Seeing none, you ready to vote? We'll open the board. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2009 to full transportation committee, please indicate by voting yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 2009 is going to full transportation committee.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Thank you. We're now on item number 3 on our calendars, House Bill 2094 by Chairman Powers. I think the request has been to move this bill to final calendar number 2. Without objection, House Bill 2094 moved to final calendar number 2. Item number 4 on our calendars, House Bill 2370 by Doggett. The request has been to take this bill off notice. Without objection, House Bill 2370 off notice. We're now ready for item number 5. Vice Chairman Rudd, we got to you quicker than we thought we might there. Chairman Rudd, you are recognized on House Bill 1883. Do we have a motion? Sir, we do not hear a motion on your bill. House Bill 1883 dies for lack of a motion. We are now on item number 6 on our calendars, House Bill 2609 by Chairman Hulsey. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. Chairman Hulsey, you are recognized on House Bill 2609.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. And I'm going to ask your indulgence. We're still working with Department of Safety on some concerns they have. And so it's my intent to roll this, but there's a lady who flew in here from out of state to speak to you on this bill this morning. And so I'm going to ask for your indulgence if I could just present a sketch of what this bill is going to do with Real ID. And you allow her to testify, and then I will ask to roll till we can write an amendment that maybe appeases some of the problems that safety's got, if that's all right with you.
Okay. I will share with you, Chairman Hulsey, this is our final calendar, has been announced as our final calendar. This could quite likely be our last meeting as well. So I will just put that on your radar screen as we talk. Be happy to go out of session if you would like for, I believe it's Allison Lucas who has come in. So
That is correct. Oh, well, then the only answer is to pass my bill to the full, and I'll amend it before then. How's that?
without objection, we'll go into recess. The announcement will be to go out of session. Thank you for correcting me on that. I was thinking about playing outside in the sunshine in recess. So without objection, once again, I will put us out of session. Ma'am, if you could please tell us who you are, tell us who you're with. We're going to start a timer at 3 minutes, and we'll have the chances to ask you questions after that. If you could please begin now.
Thank you so much for hearing me. My name is Allison Lucas. I'm the Public Policy Director at Citizens Council for Health Freedom. Has my 3 minutes started? Okay. This bill accomplishes two main goals. First, it protects Tennesseans' right to obtain the ID of their choice. And second, it provides safeguards against federal expansion of the Real ID program. 5 reasons to support this bill. 1, in 2023, the DMV Association told Congress that it plans to digitize ID, put it on our phones, and have remote access to it. This bill preserves the state's control over IDs and protects individual choice to avoid unwanted government surveillance. Second, as written, the Real ID Act requires that source identification documents such as birth certificates and Social Security cards be copied and stored in a transferable format, creating a digital goldmine for hackers. As written, Section B of the bill protects the privacy and security of Tennesseans by permitting those who get a regular ID to request the state not retain copies of these documents. Number 3, the Real ID Act requires that the data of Real ID cardholders be accessible to all other states using the data exchange system. 6 other states have refused to use this state-to-state exchange. This bill, Section C, protects the privacy and security of Tennesseans by prohibiting the state from sharing data on those with a regular ID. And number 4, the act mandates Real ID for access to federal facilities, nuclear plants, and commercial aircraft. However, it also gives the Secretary of DHS unilateral authority to broaden Real ID mandate to any other purpose. Thus, a Real ID could be used in the future to purchase a gun, it could be mandated in the future to purchase a gun, to get medical care, to open a bank account, or perhaps even to receive Social Security benefits. Critically, Tennessee's regulation, which conforms to the Real ID program, agrees to comply with all federal changes, regardless of how Orwellian. This bill, Section G, protects Tennesseans against Real ID expansions, which is similar to a bipartisan 2017 Minnesota law. If you have any questions about how this bill handles federal changes to Real ID, please do ask. And finally, number 5, Real ID is a national ID under federal control. And I can talk more about this if there are questions. But states should exercise their sovereignty and at a minimum, place some guardrails on this federal biometric surveillance program. In conclusion, this bill ensures that you, the elected leaders, not state bureaucrats, not agency bureaucrats, decide whether to accept Real ID expansion by this or any other administration's Secretary of DHS. Again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the speaker? Chairman Wright, you're recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To back up for just a second, did I hear you correctly say that this bill as proposed would be instrumental in blocking implementation of the federal ID law, which then maybe might have been my words. Speaking of Real ID, is this bill intended to block Real ID?
Ms. Lucas, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. And I apologize for any confusion I may have caused, but Real ID is implemented in the state of Tennessee. The concern that this bill attempts to address is that the Secretary of DHS has the unilateral authority to expand the required uses of Real ID without congressional approval. For any other purpose is what the statute says. So this bill attempts to put some safety rails in place so that the General Assembly in Tennessee gets to decide whether or not their Real ID program is expanded, not an unelected Secretary of DHS.
Chairman Wright, you're recognized.
So as the federal government then might be in charge of me getting on an airplane, I can do it with a Real ID, but I could also do it with my passport. For those that might not have a passport, would this then block their entry into an airplane or cause them the expense of like $45?
Yes.
Ms. Lucas, you're recognized.
Sorry. Thank you for that question. That's a very good question with somewhat of a complex answer. The statute only, there's a automatic repeal in this bill that only is triggered if Real ID is expanded beyond the 3 uses that it is currently used for by the federal government, which is entry into nuclear plants, federal buildings, and access to commercial aircraft. So if the Secretary of DHS expands the uses beyond that, let's say, for example, to purchase a gun, then that is only when the repeal clause is triggered in this bill. So currently, no issues, right? There are no issues with anyone who holds a Real ID in Tennessee unless or until the 3 triggers in Section G are triggered by the federal government, which is modification of the Real ID program. Secondly, to address the second part of your question, the TSA currently permits 17 forms of ID in order to pass through a checkpoint at airports, and including an additional 3 mobile IDs. So one ID is only one of 17 ways in which a person can pass through checkpoint security at TSA checkpoint security. And as you mentioned, a passport is another option, as is a passport card. And if a person has none of those 17 documents or none of those 3 mobile IDs, they can pay a $45 fee and get checked through an alternate system at TSA and then pass through.
Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Pearson, did you want to be recognized?
Yes,
You're-
Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
Thank you. So one of the concerns I have is actually to what Representative Wright was mentioning. The probably most common forms of ID that most average folks have, because passports are a little bit more expensive, take a little bit more time, is access sort of to an ID, the regular driver's license or the real ID. And so if they get to the airport and they do not have the real ID, I'm not sure when it starts, but relatively soon, DHS is requiring a fee. You clear about that?
So there are 17 forms of I'm sorry.
Ms. Lucas, you're recognized.
Thank you. There are 17 forms of ID the TSA will accept. Real ID is one of 17.
Person, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I think the most common things that folks have access to is the driver's license. And so this is sort of a barrier to entry. And this may not be a question for you, and it may be a question for the sponsor here. But when folks are deciding not to have the real ID, which is their prerogative and fine, are they notified of the sort of consequences therein, right? Like it may create a little bit more of a barrier for you to get on the plane. You can't enter, as you said here, federal buildings, nuclear facilities, and it's possible that whoever President Trump chooses as DHS secretary might, and they pass through the senatorial process, might expand this list. And so you might have to go back to the DMV to get the real ID if you want to enter into those places. Is there notification that happens about that?
Ms. Lucas, you're recognized.
I'm not positive about Tennessee law and what it requires when someone goes to get a real ID or a regular ID. But in my experience in talking with and dealing with this issue day to day, is that people who want that normal ID, that regular ID, or that non-real ID are very informed about the consequences and about their reasons for not wanting a real ID. And so it takes a little bit more effort in my experience to get that regular ID. So my impression is that they are fully informed, although I can't know for sure about the consequences of their decision to get that regular ID.
Representative Pearson.
I got you. And this is my last question. Again, it may not be to you just as the presenter, but right now, people can get the non-real ID. Is that accurate or is that not accurate?
Ms. Lucas.
That is correct. And so this bill aims to maintain that status quo, to make sure that Tennesseans have a choice to get a regular ID or a non-real ID. And then it also places safety rails in the event that the federal government, specifically the Secretary of DHS, expands the mandatory uses of a real ID. And puts the decision making in the hands of the General Assembly and not the Secretary of DHS. So this bill is really about safety rails, making sure that the federal government stays in their lane and permits the Tennessee General Assembly to govern the state of Tennessee.
This has been,
You recognize Representative Pearson.
thank you. My last point here, Chairman, and I appreciate that. And trust me, legislators love nothing more than to have more power vested in themselves. But if the federal government expanded the list of things that were required, we would have to follow that. And I really think, us trying to attempt or potentially subvert a potentiality or something hypothetical that may happen under this administration, if the federal government mandates that people needed to go purchase a firearm, people would suffer a significant liability if they did otherwise. And so there's no way for us to overdo what the federal government might do, if you catch my meaning. But I understand and appreciate the intent, and thank you for presenting today.
Thank you. Any further questions for the witness? Ms.
Yeah.
Lucas, few final words.
Do I have an opportunity to respond to the last
You're
comment?
recognized.
Thank you. I would just suggest that state ID is a state issue that the federal government has no business interfering with. And also, the Real ID Act was passed in 2005, and many states refused to comply for 15, 20 years. It wasn't until recently, I'd say 6 years ago, that the TSA started to say that you can't fly without a real ID, which is not true, as we've discussed, that citizens felt like they had to have one. And that's when the state started to comply. So it was based on a misunderstanding or a lie, if you will, about what was required to get through that TSA checkpoint. So I would just encourage the General Assembly that they do have the power over state ID, and that it may take some exercising of that power to make sure that you retain state's control over a state ID.
Further questions or comments? Chairman McCalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here today and for the testimony. I am all for a limited federal government and in increasing state government rights. I think that's how the founders of the Constitution intended our states to operate, as a United States, not a homogenized federal government. So the question I do have is, because we do have the 14th Amendment, which did establish the federal superiority of the states, and to my colleague from Shelby County, what is the work around that? Because ultimately we're tied to, we are tied for better or for worse to federal funding on a lot of things. So, I mean, again, I'm all for states' rights. I'm all for, I personally have a real ID, and I think if you don't want to get one, you don't have to get one. But can you expound on that a little bit more, please?
Ms. Lucas, you're recognized.
Thank you. Great question. Important question. And I think there's many parts to the answer. One is that states have to be, I guess, bold, perhaps is the word, bold enough to say no, to stand up to the federal overreach. And many states did for many, many years. As I said, this Real Act was passed in 2005, and it took this long for the federal government to get every state to comply, almost 20 years, because states recognized, citizens recognized the overreach. And again, it wasn't until citizens were misinformed about needing the Real ID to fly to get through TSA that states really started to comply, because their constituents were then starting to contact the representatives and the senators and say, hey, I can't fly without a Real ID. We need to get compliant. Again, that was all based on a misunderstanding. But that's kind of how we got here. So to undo it, we just reverse that, right? Citizens need to resist a Real ID. If they have one, they can go back and get a regular ID in many states. There's only 45 states give citizens the option. Texas, Georgia, Florida, Wyoming, and Mississippi do not. They do not have a regular ID option. If you're in that state, you have to have a Real ID. But other citizens should resist, get a Real ID. Another option, again, would be for general assemblies or state legislatures to enact legislation just as this, that puts guardrails on what the federal government can do. Can the federal government reach into your General Assembly and tell you that you have to expand the required uses of a Real ID? With this amendment, or with this bill, they cannot. It's placed in your hands because there's an automatic repeal in place that takes place 6 to 18 months after the federal government expands the uses of Real ID, for this General Assembly to say, we accept these changes, or if they don't do so within that time frame, Tennessee's compliance with Real ID will lapse. And if we have enough states doing that, that puts it makes the federal government recognize and realize states are not going to comply if we expand Real ID uses, and it makes it much more likely that they would actually even do that, right? But states have to stand up, I believe, and I think this bill is a good way to start that process. Also, we've spoken to many attorney generals across the country, and they have indicated that if the federal government or the Secretary of DHS expands the required uses of a Real ID, that they would be the first to sue. So we do have some lines of defense against this, but I do think it takes a little bit of coordination and some pre-planning, because once it's happened, it becomes very difficult to stand up. And this is just a little foresight, a little bit of pre-planning to say, I'm not going to let the federal government reach in to our state ID program and tell us what we can and cannot do with it.
You follow up, Representative McCalman?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further questions or comments for the presenter? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
While we're still in recess, I said that's the second time. It is a recurring theme. Maybe St. Patrick's Day has got me off my game today. While we are out of session, would any of the members like to hear from the Department of Safety on this issue? Okay. Being out of session, we do have The card has been filled out for Graham Tudor. Graham, if you could, Mr. Tudor, if you could please come forward, tell us who you are, who you're with, and any thoughts that you might have on the legislation. You recognize we'll start the clock at 3 minutes right now. Once we get your microphone on. There we go.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hawk and committee members. My name is Graham Tudor. I'm the Director of Legislation with the Tennessee Department of Safety. We have some serious concerns with the amendment that is on this bill. The amendment removes the department's, it gives individuals the option to request the department to not maintain documents. So we currently, state law requires us to check for proof of citizenship and proof of residency. And the practice of the department dating back 20 plus years has been to scan that and keep it on your file. We use that for a multitude of purposes, but that's for Class D licenses. Again, state law mandates that. That's for CDLs that state law mandates, and federal laws mandate we keep it for CDL, the proof of citizenship. Other purposes we use it for is for fraud. So we have had instances where a bad actor employee has actually been convicted for fraudulently issuing licenses here in Tennessee. And had we not had those records of the fraudulent documentation that we kept on record, we really would have had a hard time catching that or convicting that. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Tudor? Seeing none, thank you very much. See if I can get this right. We are going back into session without objection. Chairman Hulsey, you recognize you had mentioned another amendment on this legislation. We have two amendments. Are you wanting to discuss either one of those or discuss the principles of the bill?
Well, yes, sir, if I can. I wanted to work up another amendment that Department of Safety was okay with. We can come up with an amendment that says, yeah, you can store it, but you can't share it for a regular driver's license. This is not for real ID. This is for a regular driver's license. So I can get an amendment to do that, and I think that would probably satisfy them. At least I think so. We can work through that, but I don't see the sense of putting an amendment on this now if I got to have another one to change it to make it acceptable. So I do want to address a couple of things. The founders in the states got together and created a federal government. And it created a constitution. And in that constitution, it tells what the federal government can do and what they cannot do. In Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, it lists the things that the federal government can mess around in. There's only 18 of them. That's all. When they step outside those 18 things, they're meddling in states' business. And that's why you have a 10th Amendment, is when the federal government can hoe in their garden, they cannot hoe in our garden. So driver's license is not one of the 18 things. That belongs to the power of the people in the states and belongs to this legislature in the state of Tennessee. This is a huge thing because, as you said, the money's tied to this stuff. But in this particular case, I don't think the state got any money to implement a real ID program to start with. 18 years ago, this legislature itself ran a resolution condemning real ID, did not want to belong to it. I don't know how you revoke a resolution like that. At the end of the day, what scares me the most is what this lady mentioned. And that is at any point, at any time, the Director of Homeland Security, without congressional approval, can add any condition that they want to. They can say, the example you used, you cannot purchase a firearm unless you have a real ID. You can't open a bank account till you get a real ID. What scares me to death is they're working with the SAVE Act right now on voting, and I'm afraid they're going to tie that to the real ID, saying you can't vote if you don't have a real ID. Now, your question was, do we got to tolerate that? No, we don't. We swore to protect Tennessee people by Constitution. Now, how we work this bill, I don't know, and I promise you I'll get an amendment to fix it. I don't know what to do if you're going to shut down, but this is a big deal. The bill's written so that if the government does change these conditions, the legislature has time to meet in the next session to decide whether you're going to comply and bow the knee or whether you're going to say, no, we're not doing that.
Thank you, Chairman Hulsey, very much. I can't wait to read your book when you write it as upon your retirement with passionate speeches like that. Chairman, I will let you know this bill was never calendared in the Senate, and it has never been debated in the Senate. It was never put on notice in the Senate. Chairman Wright, I think you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we take whatever your final action is going to be on this, I want to inquire of the presenter back to the statement of what it is we protect. And there is no intention of any of this legislation to compromise the basis of this ID, whether it be a real ID or a regular non-real ID, that it conform to validating or certifying that the holder is a citizen.
Chairman Hulsey, you're recognized.
Yes, and thank you. This bill says the real ID will keep on being produced in this state, okay? But it also says that a non-real ID and driver's license will keep on being produced in this state. So this deals with non-real ID way more than it deals with real ID. It doesn't stop the real ID production. It doesn't stop Tennessee from doing it. It doesn't shut the door on any of that. It does allow the legislature to decide what they're going to do if the conditions are changed. But it says you will always have a non-real ID available to people who want it.
Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the holder of one or the other will be a citizen.
Chairman
That is
Hulsey.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct. You have to show proof of that before you can get either one of them.
Thank you. Representative Renaud, do you want to be recognized?
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Hulsey, for bringing this bill. Members, I would just like to point out that the Real ID passed after 9/11, sort of in response to that tragedy, because we felt like maybe we didn't identify folks who committed a crime against our people. But unfortunately, IDs do not stop people with bad intent. And there are many security failures that happen, and often these are process-based, not ID-based, as what we saw with those folks who did commit the tragedy of 9/11. And Real ID, I believe, does create a false sense of security that somehow people have been vetted and they're not going to do bad things. So traditionally, states, like Chairman Hulsey said, they do control driver's license and identification. And a federal standard like a Real ID is a de facto national ID that states must comply with federal standards in order, in this case, to let residents fly or go to nuclear power facilities or whatnot. So the other point that I want to point out is that Real ID requires document verification and data sharing across states. And this is a concern for many people because it does make easier tracking for individual movement activities with potential expansion for things like banking and healthcare and so on and so forth and other things that have already been mentioned today. So I think a greater concern is that the larger standardized system we actually have a bigger target for identity theft, data exposure, and then just being hard to prevent breaches. So I appreciate that we want to keep the General Assembly to be in control of if there is expansion in the Real ID. Thank you for bringing the bill.
Can I make one statement?
Chairman Hulsey, you're recognized.
I'm done down here. And you're not going to have to tolerate me anymore. My grandkids depend on you. And I want you to understand that as constitutional principle wanes, tyranny becomes casual, and you will grow accustomed to it. My family's dependent on you to defend my liberty at any cost. You tell me what to do, Chairman.
Thank you. Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of my great regrets is that my friend Chairman Hulsey is not going to come back next year. we've had many good conversations about the rule of law, about the Constitution, and nobody can explain it better than that man standing there. But we're in a quandary here. I'd hate to see this bill die, but this is our last meeting. We don't have this is our final calendar. And all I can suggest maybe is that we will hope that somebody will pick up the mantle that this gentleman has been carrying and maybe roll it to the first calendar of January, and someone else will pick it up and run it then. I will make that as a form of a
Your
motion.
motion to roll this to 2027. We have a second. Open the board. All those in favor of rolling House Bill 2609 to the first calendar of 2027, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 1 no.
8 votes in the positive. We move House Bill 2609 to the first calendar of 2027.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Chairman Hulsey. We love you. We're now ready for item number 7 on our calendars, House Bill 1790. Chairman Sparks, Chairman Sparks, you have a motion, you have a second. Chairman Sparks, do you have an amendment or is it ready to go?
It's ready to go, sir. And sir, if I could, you've never told me you love me.
We'll see how this bill goes.
Okay. Yes,
So,
sir. Hopefully
Chairman
this is
Sparks,
the
you're
day.
recognized.
Yeah, thank you. Members, I presented this bill last year. It passed out of this committee and passed on out of full. It passed the Senate yesterday with no opposition. This bill, some would say, is a better bill. It's at 23 years of age to drive a school bus. We are the most restrictive in the world, in the nation. My school board had passed this. We've really had a crisis, a shortage of school bus drivers. I do have some folks that could testify if it makes it to full committee, if they want to come up. Same testimony that you heard last year. Want to point out young Isaiah Heineck, who's had his dream is to drive a school bus since he's 6 years old. Was hired at MTSU to drive their students at 22 years of age. David Settles, who serves on the school board of Murfreesboro, also drives for Antioch Metro, had testified last year. He really thinks it needs to go to 21, but I just amended it to 23. So I think it's, to some people, it's probably a better bill. So with that being said, just like to ask for passage.
Chairman McAlvin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to my dear friend from Rutherford County. Wanted to say I appreciate you appreciate the heart in the bill. I've spoken to my superintendent, several members of my school board, and probably one of my most important constituents, aka my wife, and they are not in favor of decreasing the age on the school bus. And I know you can get a CDL at a younger age than 25, but to me, hauling kids is a lot different than hauling hay or hauling paper. So again, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I appreciate you trying to fix a problem. I just won't be able to support it, sir. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for clarification, is this a permissive bill?
Yes, sir.
Can local LEAs decide to or not to
Yes,
opt
sir.
into this?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. That's
And like I
my
said, mine
question.
signed
Thank you.
off on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Further questions or comments? You ready to vote? We'll open the voting. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1790 to full transportation, please signify by voting yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 1 no, 1 present not voting.
Congratulations, Chairman Sparks. Your bill goes to full committee.
Thank you, sir. Just want to say I'm glad Afton Payne's not here. Thank you.
Don't know quite how to take that comment. We're now ready for item number 8 on our calendars, House Bill 2474 by new Representative Langford. Vice Chairman Butler, you're recognized. You got Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would make a motion, we roll this bill to the Hill.
Second. Well, that's a proper motion. House Bill 2474 is rolled to the Hill. Representative Langford, have you packed your lunch? Okay. I don't know if I heard a response to that or not. Item number 9 on our calendars, House Bill 1713 by Representative Shaw has been requested to take off notice. Item number 10 on the calendar is House Bill 1714 by Representative Shaw. The request has been to take that off notice without objection. Item number 11 on our calendars, House Bill 1830 by Representative Mitchell. The request has been to take that bill off notice without objection. Item number 12 on our calendars, SJR 0657. Chairman Howell, I believe you're carrying this for Chair Lady Massey. You have a motion, you have a second. You're recognized on SJR 657.
Thank you, Chairman. The city of the Metro Nashville area has received a federal grant for a program that which they call Choose How You Move. It's a transportation grant. And the desire of the city is to create what they call bus lanes for buses only. But the grant requires that the General Assembly pass a resolution approving it. So that's what this resolution does. TDOT will, of course, have oversight and approval of those lanes. And the only additional amendment would be amendment number 1. That code is 14567, which specifies that there will be no bike lanes in the bus lanes.
Thank you, Chairman Howell, for bringing that up. We do have an amendment to this SJR. We have a motion and second. All those in favor of placing amendment drafting code 014567 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Your resolution is amended. Any further explanation, sir?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Chairman Wright, you're recognized.
There being no objection, I move previous question.
Previous question is called. Seeing no objection, we'll open the voting. All those in favor of sending SJR 657 to full transportation, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Would any member like to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
SJR 657, receiving an affirmative vote, will go to full transportation. We're going to go on and take our Transportation Subcommittee special calendar. We have a piece of legislation that Chairman Russell has been working diligently on for a couple of years and a considerable amount of conversation. Chairman Russell, we have a motion. You have a second. You are recognized on House Bill 1021. We've got several amendments. What would you like to go with, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go with 15724.
All right. That's the one I have starred in my paperwork as well. Let's go ahead and get that amendment on for conversation. All those in favor of placing amendment drafting code 015724 on the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill is amended for explanation, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee House Bill 1021 as amended ensures that when a billboard is taken to condemnation or eminent domain, the owner receives just compensation for their investment in business loss. This bill as amended reflects months of work between the outdoor advertising industry and TDOT to determine fair compensation and realistic costs. Over the last couple of years, physical estimates have varied widely. The bill you see before you, along with TDOT's analysis, provides a more reliable physical note. I definitely appreciate the committee leadership for allowing me the time to complete this work, which has strengthened the bill. Funding will be addressed as transportation funding measures move forward. I renew my motion.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I will indicate, and Chairman Russell, you indicated committee leadership, but your leadership on this issue has been tremendous. So I want to thank you for that, Chairman Russell. Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of sending House Bill 1021 to full transportation committee, please vote yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Has every member voted? Representative Russell, I'm going to ask you if you would like to vote on your bill. There you go. Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 1021, receiving an affirmative vote, will move to full transportation committee. All right. Okay. We made a motion on item number 3 on our calendars, House Bill 2094 by Powers. Seeing he's not in the room, we had moved that to a second calendar, seeing that he's not in the room. House Bill 2094 will be taken off notice. Without objection, House Bill 2094 is off notice. All right, we're back on item number 8 on our calendars. House Bill 2474 by Representative Langford. Motion. You have a motion. You have a second. Do you have an amendment on your piece of legislation, Representative Langford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do. It's 014204.
Okay, we've got a House Amendment number 1, drafting code 014204. That's also 204, the way I said it. 014204. Let's go ahead and place that. Do we have a motion? Second. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of placing this amendment on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Your bill is amended and you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under current Tennessee law, school speed zone cameras may operate at all times, regardless of whether school is in session or children are present. This legislation addresses that by aligning enforcement with actual risk, limiting those camera uses to periods when school zone lights are flashing or when the children are present. School zones are inherently high-risk environments, and when children are present, the safety justification is clear. However, when school is not in session, continuous enforcement does not reflect the same level of risk. This bill ensures that the enforcement is applied when it's most appropriate and most effective. This approach is in use in many parts of Tennessee, and it's been proven to be practical and effective. This legislation would also address concerns that these systems are being used as revenue tools by limiting their operation strictly to times when children are present. When enforcement is tied directly to student safety, the policy rationale is clear and defensible. It's an adjustment that prioritizes safety and ensures consistency and fairness in enforcement, and ask for your support.
Thank you for that explanation. Vice Chairman Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious if you've been issued a number of citations in school zone, and that's the reason you're running this bill.
Representative Langford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have not been issued school zone speeding tickets.
Vice Chairman Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you give us a detailed, thorough explanation of how these traffic cameras work?
I don't know if I want that or not myself, but Representative Langford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is my understanding that there is a radar device within the camera that measures your speed, and if it's within us or over a certain range, it will snap a picture of your vehicle license plate and send it to the registered owner.
Vice
Thank
Chairman
you, Mr.
Butler.
Chairman.
Thank you. Representative McCalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Langford, is this your first bill?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is not my first bill. It is in this committee.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Chairman. Representative Langford, could you expound and provide some color as to what that range would be with those cameras?
Representative Langford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That range is typically set with the camera operators and the local municipalities.
Representative McCalman.
Can you clarify as to if there's a window of a range within those municipalities? Is it consistent across the state?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding that it's not consistent across the state. It's left up to the law enforcement in those counties.
Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized. Or do we? Yeah, Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This is your first bill in this committee, right?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it is.
Chairman Howell.
It was mentioned in staff meeting earlier in our staff meeting with the committee that there are some school zones that leave their lights flashing all the time, Saturday, Sunday, midnight. So how are these cameras going to discriminate when school's in session and when it's not?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is taken across the state that when the lights are flashing and children are present, that is when the camera should be operable. If they're outside of that, I think that would be the local municipality that needs to address that.
Chairman Howell.
So this is going to put a burden on those people who get a ticket in the school zone for driving the speed limit when the lights should not be flashing, but they're getting a ticket anyway. So how does it address that?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would not address that issue. If the lights are flashing and cameras are operable, they would receive a ticket.
Can they send those tickets to you?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is so in state law as well. You do not have to pay those tickets. It is optional.
Good bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Russell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, very good bill. I was thinking, since it's your first bill in this committee, should you make this just VHS tapes or keep it simple?
Representative Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'll make clarify. Do you know what a VHS tape is?
I do.
Do you know what a VCR is?
I do.
Okay. Could we limit this to cameras to those types of tapes since this is your first bill?
Representative Langford.
I believe that would be up to the manufacturers of the camera.
Okay. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Russell. Chairman Wright, you're recognized. I think we're about to wind this up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I will wind this up because I thought when the chairman of the committee, the Transportation Committee chair, he was going to chastise you for not, in your first appearance in a Transportation Committee, be prepared to at least hum the transportation fight song. So can you give us your rendition of the I Will Fight for Transportation theme song?
Representative Langford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not privy to that song or rendition you're asking for.
It may hurt you right there.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments for the sponsor? Sponsor, you've been a good sport about this. I do think it is a nice piece of legislation, and it is dipping in an area where we have some concerns, and I do think this will be a positive piece of legislation. So, Representative Ashley, you're recognized.
I just want you to remember who didn't gig you up here today.
All right. Are you ready to vote? Let's open the voting board. All those in favor of House Bill 2474 going to full Transportation Committee, please signify by voting yes. Any opposed, please vote no. Any member wish to change your vote? Mr. Clerk, could you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 2474 as amended, receiving a positive vote, will go forward to full Transportation Committee. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that we have completed the business of this committee, subcommittee for the year. Chairman McCalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to express from the bottom of my heart how much of a privilege it has been to serve under your leadership on this committee. As we wrap up the 114th General Assembly, I think we have had a great year and a great 114th. So thank you very much for chairing, and I look forward to next year.
Thank you. It's an honor. What else? Chairman Howell, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to echo what my colleague just said. You bring a cool and steady hand to the job of sub-chairman, and it's something that I greatly appreciate because you make my job easier. And I greatly appreciate the job you do, and we're fortunate to have you as chair of transportation. So
Thank you,
for
Chair.
the job you do.
Thank you, Chairman. Certainly an honor. It has been suggested that one of the songs from Smokey and the Bandit has been suggested, Eastbound and Down from, so that may receive future consideration for the actual theme song of this committee. We'll take that under advisement in the year 2027. Lord willing, we all get back. Thank you all for the work that you've done, to all of our committee attorney, committee staff, everyone. Thank you to our clerks, to our friends with archives. Thank you so much. Our sergeant at arms. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. To everyone who has stayed till the bitter end, thank you for being here. We still have a lot of work to do in transportation in full committee, and hopefully we'll get a few things done in finance committee as well. Seeing no further business to come before this subcommittee, transportation subcommittee is closed, subject to the call of the chair.